We have some developments regarding the Epstein files. First, one of the two prison guards that was on duty the night that Epstein died, Tova Noel, the one who just reportedly received money in her bank account just 10 days before Epstein died and had some suspicious Google searches, will testify in front of the House Oversight Committee on March 26. Plus, Epstein's accountant, who just testified this prior week, Richard Kahn, has continually changed his testimony according to Democrats. Democrats sent a letter to him saying that his testimony changed specifically regarding whether or not the Epstein estate entered into a settlement with Jane Doe 4, who accused not just Epstein, but Trump of sexual abuse. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. Let's get into this. The House Oversight Committee is moving this investigation forward, combing through the documents, the FBI or the DOJ document dump. We have something related to the prison guard. As we know, there were two prison guards on duty the night that Epstein died. One of the two had suspicious bank account deposits that was tracked in an FBI record that was part of this DOJ release. The largest deposit she received was $5,000 10 days before he died. She, however, had a string of about 11 or 12 different deposits that were suspicious enough that Chase Bank issued a SARS, a suspicious bank account activity. You know, the thing that they didn't do for all of the very suspicious Epstein activities? The reason why Senator Wyden keeps on asking the banks to cooperate because they failed to, well, they did issue an activity report related to these deposits. Also, according to these FBI records and the DOJ release, she also had some rather suspicious Google searches, or at least suspicious enough that the House Oversight Committee wants her to come and testify. Specifically, she made searches asking about, quote, latest on Epstein in jail. She made that search at 5:42 a.m. and then at 5:52 a.m., which was just less than 40 minutes before her fellow correctional officer, Michael Thomas, found Epstein dead in a cell at 6:30 a.m. She also evidently shopped for furniture online. Now, she and her fellow correctional officer were first charged for criminal charge of falsifying their records because they had said that they had checked on Epstein every 30 minutes, and they did it. Those charges were actually dropped. They were dismissed by a judge, but it was a prosecutor who sought their dismissal, which is quite interesting. We've seen this over and over again with the files. Back from the beginning, when Maria Farmer went to law enforcement and said what was happening with her and her sister, and nothing happened. Apparently, it doesn't seem like there was any further investigation into the fact of these suspicious Google searches, into the fact of these deposits, leading the House Oversight Committee to be basically both the FBI and the Department of Justice and look into what exactly this all meant in terms of Epstein, and was there or was there not a cover-up? Was there or was there not a suicide? Now, according to internal FBI agency, they also believed that she was the mysterious orange shape that's on the surveillance video. It said, quote, at approximately 10:45 p.m., a correctional officer believed to be Tova Noel carried linen or inmate clothing up to the L tier last time any correctional officer approached the only entrance to the SHU tier, the agency wrote. Epstein apparently hanged himself with strips of orange cloth. But Noel, in a sworn statement, had said that she never gave out linen ever because that was done in the shift before. So her basically debunking this theory the FBI had that she was this mysterious orange shape. So we will have to see what her testimony says, as she was evidently transferred to the special housing unit where Epstein was held just weeks before he died. Now, separately, the House Oversight Committee also getting some testimony when Richard Kahn, Epstein's longtime accountant, came to testify. Now, Jane Doe 4 is let's say, perhaps the most important Jane Doe we are looking at right now in terms of a Trump accuser, or at least the most recent revealing Jane Doe we are looking at. Now, evidently, Congressmen Robert Garcia and Ro Khanna sent a letter to the lawyer for Richard Khan saying that Richard Khan, testify to the committee that the Epstein estate paid a settlement to Jane Doe 4. Again, reason why this is so important is because this Jane Doe 4 had also accused Trump of abuse, not just Epstein. So whether or not a settlement was paid to an Epstein and Trump accuser is basically what is at issue. So according to the congressman, the Democratic congressman, this is what he testified to. And then they said, after Richard Khan spoke to his lawyer, then they said on the record that Richard Khan's prior statement regarding Jane Doe 4 was, quote, mistaken, and that neither you nor Mr. Khan recognized the name as someone who had brought a claim against the Epstein estate. But then they said that he continued to shift so much to the extent that the letter that they wrote, that these Democrats wrote to Richard Khan's lawyer, said that it was, quote, inconsistent and shifting statements that continued later in the day, because then the lawyer said that he, quote, could no longer stand by his assertion that no settlement was reached with Jane Doe 4. So essentially, the Democrats were saying, okay, it seemed like in the testimony you said there was a settlement. And then afterwards you said, no, I didn't ever say that. And then again, the lawyer saying he couldn't stand by the assertion that there was a settlement. So basically, the Democrats coming out and saying, we need to get to the bottom of this. I mean, you are, first of all, testifying in front of the Oversight Committee under oath. And also, the Oversight Committee is right now the one branch actually looking into our investigation. This obviously should have looked into with the full force of our Department of Justice, the full force of our FBI. But we are instead looking into it by the Oversight Committee. Thankfully, we have Democrats like Ro Khanna and Congressman Garcia and so many actually amazing Democrats on there trying to get to the bottom of this and trying to get to the truth. But this is very important to follow because the accountant knows what settlements were paid by the Epstein estate. And if this involves a Trump accuser, this becomes a direct connection to Trump in a very significant way. That's not as much about what an accuser can say about Trump, because as they say, follow the money. There's a reason why Senator Wyden has been trying to follow the money with the banks. That is something that you cannot lie your way out of as well, is whether or not a settlement was paid and to who. And if we know that Jane Doe 4 accused Trump in terms of Epstein, this becomes a bombshell revelation. And this is why the Democrats are pointing out publicly, putting this statement out there saying, you keep changing your story. We need to get to the bottom of this. And we will keep following this story here. Obviously, really stunning developments coming out of these Epstein files, even while Trump is trying to distract us with our entire new war in Iran. So be sure to subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel if you have not yet subscribed, and check out the Mistrial podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our sponsors. So grateful for our sponsors and their commitment to free speech in this critical moment.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.